Overpowering Fear, Defeating the #1 Challenge in Sales and Life with Michael Luckman.
Everything you have ever really wanted in your life has always been on the other side of fear. When I first heard those words, I was sitting in a seminar audience. It struck me as one of the most profound statements I had ever heard. It was so true. Just think about it for a moment. When you were little, you wanted to ride a two-wheeler just like your older brother or sister. But when your dad removed the training wheels and you first mounted that unsteady bike, what did you feel? Fear, of course. But the humiliation you would feel if your dad had to put back on those training wheels drove you to overpower any fears you had of falling down and hurting yourself. You got to the other side of fear. When you were in grammar school, you, or maybe it was your parents, wanted to get you into sports. Youth soccer, t-ball, flag football, maybe even the swimming team. Now you knew that everyone would get on a team, but your fear was how good or bad would you play. If you were good, most of that fear would disappear. But if you were like me, several notches below I suck, you would be consumed by fear at every practice and every game. There was never any joy for me in playing sports, only the constant voices in my head reminding me, Michael, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't drop the ball, remember who to throw the ball to, don't run the wrong way. Because if I did screw up, what would I hear? All the taunts and jeers from my teammates, and even a few win-at-all-cost parents. And believe me, those taunts hurt, and I still remember them today. And maybe in this situation, I never got to the other side of fear, because as an adult, I did everything I could to avoid participating in sports. Remember when you were in junior high and began to notice that you had some budding romantic inclinations, and it was nothing like you felt before? In fact, you thought it might even be fun to get to know the boy whose locker was next to yours, or that pretty blonde who sat in front of you in civics class. Even with your friends egging you on, you still couldn't get up the nerve to say hello and begin a conversation. Your fears might have been, what if they don't like me? What if my mind goes blank and I don't know what to say? What if I come across as a loser or a creep? What if? And it didn't get any better in high school, and it didn't get any better in college. And when you were single and out of college, it still didn't get any better. And if you somehow found a person who would marry you, over 50% of us get divorced. If that statistic includes you, suddenly you found yourself single once again. But you still couldn't overpower your fear of walking up to a total stranger, introducing yourself, and carrying on a conversation. Fear is fear. It begins rearing its ugly head in your childhood with your earliest attempts to try something new, and you still have those same fearful feelings when you try something new or different today. It's possible that you will feel the same fears when you're 90 years old, that you did when you were 5 years old. Does that make any rational sense? Why is fear so powerful? Why does it freeze so many intelligent people in their tracks? Why does it make us feel so helpless? Because we were born to fear. Fear is both physiological and psychological. It is built into the oldest part of our brain, what we refer to as the reptilian brain. It works with our 5 senses to warn us of danger, so our body could either prepare to flee or to fight a dangerous situation. We refer to this as the fight or flight syndrome, and that's good. Survival is good. And all of our ancestors were courageous. If not, you and I wouldn't be here today. When does fear turn into the evil destroyer of our lives? When we create fear for no rational reason. When it just takes over and makes us irrational. When delusional negative thoughts in your mind trigger the amygdala, a small nodule in your brain, to bathe your body in hormones, and you begin to experience the same fearful feelings that you would if someone pointed a loaded gun in your face. You know what those hormones do. They make your heart beat faster. Your lungs feel like they're bursting as you try to suck in more oxygen. Your body is bathed in sweat. Your gut feels empty because all the blood has been transferred to your arms and legs so that you could either fight or flee. But you're not in a war zone. Nothing so dramatic. No, you're in your hometown, sitting in your car outside a prospect's place of business, and you're scared to death to walk in and have a conversation with another human being. Tell me, does this make any sense? That you should experience the same emotions having a conversation with another person as if you came face to face with a bear or a mountain lion standing in your driveway? Fear has been your nemesis from the very first day you realized that you were not the center of the universe. That's how old your fear is. When you realized you weren't the only one who got attention, resources, and caring. You found out you had to compete as just one of many, wanting to be loved and accepted. In your first few years, you learned to fear that you didn't have enough. You weren't enough, and you didn't know if there was enough to even go around. So you feared for your very survival. It's the human condition. I love Mark Twain. He was a man of such common sense wisdom. Take a moment and think about this quote. I have been through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. Mark Twain knew that the majority of the things we worry about never happen. They never happen. In fact, to be more precise, scientists tell us that over 90% of the things we worry about, days and weeks in advance, never come to pass. And yet we sacrifice our happiness for those many days and weeks worried about a catastrophe that won't ever happen. And even for the small percentage of things that do happen, they are never as bad as we imagined. From my earliest memories, I was always a fear-based person. And for most of my life, I let fear run my life and influence my decisions. There were times when I overpowered my fears, but there were way too many times when I let fear win. Then I began to study what was really going on in my life. I searched for the best antidotes to fear, and I perfected a system that literally changed my life and the lives of my clients. My name is Michael Luckman, and I create hugely successful people. People who are confident about their unbelievable power to create their best lives, including loving the business ventures they run. I do this by helping these individuals face and overpower their fears so that they may live the life that they have always dreamed of, and as a child of God, have always deserved. The next 3 slides are titled, How Your Fears Affect Your Marketing Efforts, and are probably the most important slides you'll see today. Why do I say that? Because these are the 15 marketing activities that are vital to growing your business revenues. These activities are the same for every business, large and small, no matter the industry. In small businesses, they are done by the owner, who wears many hats. and in larger businesses by their marketing and sales departments. The better you become at doing these activities, the greater your revenues. I'm not going to talk to you about sales and closing new business. There are plenty of good sales trainers out there. What I want to help you with is prospecting, which is the art of getting in front of people who could buy your products or services. If you can learn to overpower your fears of doing these 15 marketing activities, you could easily double and even triple your income. Why do I say that? It's really quite simple. Let's say you currently have 3 new meetings a week with potential customers, and you close 1 out of 3 prospects. If you overpower your fear of prospecting, you might now have 6 or more new meetings a week. If your closing rate stays at 1 in 3, you would still double your income. Try that on for size. Remember, this isn't rocket science. Now let me explain the difference between passive, engagement, and active prospecting. In the first slide, passive prospecting, you see 4 passive marketing activities. They are your individual website, sending out company newsletters, advertising, and mailings. These are the easy activities. They're not scary at all. They require you to maintain these activities on a weekly and or monthly basis. But once done, you have no control over whether the prospect reads them and responds to them. Total control is with the prospect. You just sit by the phone and hope it rings. This slide is titled Engagement Prospecting with 3 prospecting activities. They are blogging, which is writing relevant articles about the products and services you sell and posting them daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Developing strategic partnerships. These are partnerships you develop with other business owners or salespeople who offer complementary products or services to your own. As an example, if you sell printer ink, you may want to partner with someone who sells printers. This way you can share leads and referrals. And then there's social networking, which is having a presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. These 3 prospecting activities can be listed as either passive or engagement. And depending upon how much effort you put into them, they can either have no fear attached to them, or they can be a little scary. Let me explain. If you blog sporadically, meet with potential strategic partners rarely, and have a presence on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, but never post anything, then you won't have any fear. You also won't get much response from potential customers. But if you actively keep these activities up to date, you are going to experience some fear. And most of that fear will come from your constant efforts in coming up with ideas about what to blog and what to post. To most of you viewing this, these will be the activities that scare you to death. Yet these are the very ones that every small business owner and every salesperson the world over has to do, and do on a daily basis. Active prospecting is totally different. You, the seller, are in complete control. You decide how many networking events you want to attend and how many suspects you want to meet, which groups, organizations, and associations you want to belong to, how many phone dials each day you want to make, how many businesses you want to drop in on. You are in complete control of your activities, behaviors, and your company's revenue. The more you do, the more you sell. Now let's review the 8 active prospecting activities. They are networking. These are typically programs and events sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, business associations, and other organizations that provide you the venue to meet and mingle with people who can introduce you to your ideal prospect. Successful business people suggest attending at least 5 of these events a week. They are often held during breakfast, lunch, and after work hours. Once you have identified which networking events you've chosen to participate in, it is strongly suggested that you get more involved in the sponsoring organization by joining the board or getting on a committee. It is the easiest way for people to get to know and trust you enough to provide you with solid leads and referrals. Cold calling. Cold calling is the scariest prospecting activity ever created by man. Many will say that cold calling doesn't work anymore, but those are typically the people who are just looking for an excuse not to make them. You may have to make more dials just to reach someone, but if your message is right, you will get meetings. Drop-in calling is cold calling without the telephone. The best time to do this is after you had a meeting with a prospect or customer and you spend 30 to 60 minutes dropping in on businesses that are in close proximity to where your meeting was. Join referral networks such as BNI, those sponsored by your local Chamber of Commerce, and others. Typically you meet once a week to exchange leads and referrals. The mantra here is the more you give, the more you get. Doing free talks. More people fear speaking in public than fear death. Yet speaking to groups and offering solid advice is the absolute best way to get known, and getting known is your #1 priority. Doing seminars is a lot like giving free talks, except they're longer and you get paid for them. An excellent way to gain and establish a relationship with a new customer. Asking for referrals from new and current customers. This is the easiest activity of all. Just remember 2 things. 1, create a script for asking that puts the person into a sphere of influence where they are picturing in their mind the people they want to refer to you. And 2, always remember to do this with all new and current customers. Now, why would you do any of these 15 activities? Because these marketing activities are the way you generate leads. And leads are nothing more than identifying people who may be interested in becoming your customer. Once they are 100% convinced that you can help them with the products and services you offer, and of course, they have a budget to pay for them. Now you are probably thinking, I do a lot of that already, and I'm sure you do. But I believe that the majority of your effort is in doing the activities that can be defined as passive and engagement. You know, things that don't scare the heck out of you. And there is nothing wrong with these activities. It's just that you can't rely on them. And that's because it is up to the other person to respond, to take action. You don't have control of whether someone will respond today, tomorrow, or ever. So the activities that will bring you the most success, the most abundance, and the life of your dreams are the very activities that you do the least and dread the most. That doesn't make any sense now, does it? Your success has always been waiting for you on the other side of fear. The question is, are you ready and willing to overpower your fears and join me on the journey to the other side of fear?
With 45 years as a salesperson, marketing pioneer, entrepreneur, consultant, and sales trainer in Silicon Valley, California, Michael Luckman is today a successful and dynamic speaker, corporate trainer, and workshop facilitator. His best-selling book, Overpowering Fear, is Michael's real-world journey through a career filled with amazing achievements, including the launch of the first electronic toy and inventions like the cartridge video game system, the electronic keyboard, and the see-through advertising product seen on bus and vehicle wraps. In his talks, Michael gets real about the personal defeats that came when fear, uncertainty, and doubt clouded even one of the brightest minds in business. But when he's finished, he leaves his audience with the necessary tools and the confidence to face and overpower any fear in both their business and personal lives.